to the Wedding Vendors Happy Hour, where we dive into the world of wedding entrepreneurs. Learn how they got started, what advice they have for you, and everything in between. So grab a drink and take a seat as we interview amazing vendors with your hosts, Derek and Jade. Wedding Vendors Happy Hour. It's a podcast, but it's also happy hour.
What's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in and welcome back to another amazing episode of the Wedding Vendors Happy Hour. My name is Derek with Derek Preciado Photography.
My name is Jade with Jade Preciado Events. Today, we're venturing into uncharted territory in the wedding industry, immersing ourselves in the world of XR, extended reality weddings. And we're thrilled to have a special guest join us who's at the forefront of this innovation, Chris from My XR Wedding.
That's right. I'm intrigued to learn more and can't wait to jump into the XR world. So grab a drink, take a seat, and let's get to it.
Wedding Vendors Happy Hour.
Hey, what's going on, Chris? Thank you so much for taking the time to be a part of our show. How are you doing?
Hey guys, I'm doing fabulous. Thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Of course. And as you know, our podcast is called the Wedding Vendors Happy Hour. So we got to ask, what are you drinking? Are you drinking anything?
I'm drinking a red eye right now. I got coffee in the cup. So we'll see if that changes later. We'll see how this goes.
That sounds good. I'm on my sparkling water right now, too. So same kind of level.
Nice.
So, Chris,
I really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yes, we're so excited to chat with you.
So
Cool.
We're super excited to dive in and learn so much about your business here. But before we do, we'd like you to just let our listeners know who you are, what you do, and how long you've been doing the XR thing.
Sure. My name's Chris Stavros. I'm the founder of myxrwedding.com. We've been doing stuff in the mixed reality space for about 5 years now, but this is a brand new endeavor for us specifically around capturing weddings and special events. So we're really excited to bring some awareness around what we're doing.
Wow, dang, 5 years now. You guys were like ahead of the times.
I know. I just found out that this existed.
Yeah, well, to be fair, I mean, we've been doing this in other spaces. So we've been using the technology for training and exhibits and sales and being able to give people an opportunity to be in places they can't physically be. So the technology is still evolving. It's becoming more affordable. And we just know that this is a really impactful way to relive these really special life's moments. It really feels like you're there back in the experience again. So we're excited to be able to, look, people don't get sketches at weddings anymore. They get photos and video, and that's because they do a better job of telling a story. And this is really sort of that next level. It's not, I don't think it will ever replace traditional media, but it does give people that are in the experience an opportunity to be there as if they're there firsthand, as if you're literally in the event. It's pretty spectacular.
Dude, I'm so excited. I'm picturing the Matrix where they get that little thing and stick it in your back of your neck and you're
In a whole new world. Yeah.
Not quite that awkward. To be fair, I think that's one of the sort of concerns that people have is, how uncanny or sort of abstract is this whole thing?
Right.
The answer is it's not. What's happened is there's a new class of devices that have come on the market. They're a lot like a mobile phone, except you put them on your eyes so that you can see with depth and space. And what we're able to do with them is actually mix the content that we're capturing for these special events with the real world. So we have a really rich, engaging browser experience where you can see the traditional media like imagery and video thrown at giant scale, 100-foot large screens in the living room. But it also allows us to actually be completely immersed in the event. We use really high quality surround cameras that we place in key locations throughout the event. So the toast, the ceremony, the first dance, the parents' table. And when you hop into these experiences, you're in the perspective of that camera. It's extremely high quality video. It's motion and you hear sound and activity, and you're literally sitting next to the folks that are at the table or wherever the camera is placed. So it's a really excellent way to relive the moment. It's a great memory experience. Wonderful way to share it with folks that can't be there firsthand. And it's a tremendous keepsake.
Wow, that is like game changer. Talk about reliving the moments. And like you said, basically for the guests that can't attend, like maybe grandma can't mobilize herself or whatever.
Perfect.
Yeah, that is incredible.
Sorry,
that you kind of answered my question, like how the XR wedding experience is kind of shaking up the wedding experience for guests and everything.
It's really a tremendous way to recall the moment, and it's a great way to share it with guests and with folks who couldn't be present. It's a lot different than traditional media, and one of the challenges we have is we share sort of a perspective view of this experience in video just to sort of explain how it works, but you really have to see it firsthand to appreciate just how visceral it is. I mean, this is a very real lifelike recall. It's unlike anything else that most folks have seen before. And frankly, it's brand new. I mean, the reason that you don't see this as sort of a commonplace thing these days is because we're the first folks around doing this capture, especially for this particular market. But frankly, the technology has just finally started to arrive at a place where the quality is rich enough and it's affordable enough that it makes sense to use for this. I think this will be in the norm in the future. My prediction is that in another 5 or 10 years, this will sort of be another standard way of capturing these moments. And I want your audience to understand that this is, this is brand new, but it's also something that you'll look back at in 10 or 15 or 20 years and go, gosh, I really wish I had done that, because there's only really one opportunity to capture these moments. And this is a really exceptional way to relive them.
So crazy.
Goodness.
Yeah. So I want to get into, speaking of the audience, I want to dive into more about, we'll get into who's your target audience for your XR wedding device. And are there any specific demographics or types of couples that benefit from this technology?
Great question. So we're actually working in a couple of spaces in the wedding industry. So one is with couples who want to actually capture and share back these special moments. And frankly, this works regardless of the scale of the event. We can do it on a relatively simple, straightforward scale in a way that gives you a great memory experience, and it's not overexpensive or overproduced or requiring a lot of manpower. One of the nice things about the way we capture these events is we use let's see if I can get it to show up on the screen here.
Cam?
This is the camera. They're very small. They sit on a stick sort of out of the way. They don't need to be manned. So we don't have, a team of people walking around putting a camera in your face. We just make sure that they're up and running in the right location. Yeah. And so they're capturing that content. And that's really sort of the foundation of the experience that we're able to stitch together for folks. This can work for a small event with 10 people. It can work for a large event with 500 people. And frankly, any special moment, whether it's a wedding or quinceanera or a mitzvah or some other sort of celebration, this is just a really wonderful way to capture that moment. What we do is we typically place one or more of these cameras at key spots throughout the event, and we just capture the whole thing. It's just sort of a live feed that we collect. And then we go back and we pull out the key moments that we want to remember and put them together in a navigation experience that's really nice. It sort of segments things by the special moments. It lets you look at traditional media like the videos and photo that relate to that moment. But then you're able to actually fly into the video and be completely surrounded inside the experience. So for small events, it's a wonderful keepsake for the couple, for the parents, maybe for the folks that couldn't make the attendance. For large events, this is the ultimate spectacular bling party giveaway. It's affordable. It's probably on par with what some folks spend on a plate of food when you start to look at it, and over the cost of the event. And so this is a great gift. We ship them preloaded with the memory experience, but they're also unlocked and can be used for all the other awesome stuff that they can do. Yeah. What we deliver these days is this is an Oculus Quest 3. Yeah. So it's a sort of brand new AR VR device. We call them XR devices because they do both mixed and immersive experiences. And they provide a really exceptional visual experience. They let us mix the content that we're capturing for your special moment with the real world. So part of what's nice about this browsing and reliving experience is that it's actually mixed with your living room, your deck, wherever it is that you happen to be sort of playing with this content. You actually get to dress the real world space with that material. And then, like I said, you can actually get into the immersive part of these memories by flying back into the video and being there inside the moment. So we think it's a great way to capture this regardless of the scale of the event. And it can, we can implement it in a way that's anywhere from just a nice keepsake for a handful of people to something that can be delivered to the entire attending audience as a really memorable keepsake, and everywhere in between.
Yeah.
I'll mention that we also work with the client's photographer. So our goal is to be partnering with professionals like yourselves. You guys are already on site doing the heavy lifting. And frankly, we love it when you put your creative work into the media that we incorporated into the mixed reality experience. So this is a wonderful way to showcase the content that you're already capturing for the client, to be able to dress it and stylize it in a way that's really meaningful and creates a compelling experience, memory experience. And we blend that in with the mixed reality experience that we provide as part of that whole richness. So it's a great complement to what most events are already capturing, and you already have folks on site that are doing the work. We just work with them to make sure that the cameras are on in the right location at the right time, and then take all of that collateral and incorporate it into this memory recall experience that we deliver.
So you're saying you could give the couples the options to have their photography team like be your men on the ground and in charge of the cameras. So they're basically like in charge of all the cameras.
Yeah, it's very low overhead from an actual effort perspective. They're pretty much set and forget. So the nice thing is you've already got folks on site that have an eye for being in the right spot, that are capable of making sure these things are running and doing their business at the right moment. And from a photographer professional's perspective, it's a few minutes of extra work throughout the event. Obviously, we work with you to make sure that your time's compensated for that. And the idea is that we can do this over, throughout the United States by working with your local provider to get that raw material. And our job is to stitch that into something that's, truly memorable and different and unique to your recall experience, and provide that back as part of that takeaway that you get.
This is interesting. So have you reached out to like other photographers and said, hey, would you be considered on adding this maybe onto an add-on in your packages so you can push it out?
Yeah, to be honest, that's our go-to-market strategy. Is we prefer to work with local photographers and videographer professionals who would like to offer this as an add-on, as a value add to their existing suite of services. We understand not everybody's going to want this, but frankly, if you're already hiring a professional to do that capture, this is a pretty low extra to add into that engagement that produces just an incredibly impactful outcome. It's something that, like I said, you really can't have this recall experience any other way. And there's one opportunity to capture that and put it into this medium. And so we love working with professionals that are already on site and working with clients to just provide this as another, a bonus option, if you will, that they can incorporate into what they're doing to memorialize their events.
Yeah. So I want to get into that a little bit more. So for our photographers, because we do have a lot of photographers that listen. Yeah. So I want them to kind of we could break this down into simpler forms for us to understand. So if we wanted to add this onto our like packages or whatever for you, how would you want it to be like, an add-on for the VR or XR experience? You contact you, or is it like keep it under there and you tell them what the price is, so they get that and then they pay you the price and keep a difference? Or I'm just curious how.
That's a great question. We work, the short answer is we work both ways. Okay. We really prefer to be marketing and advertising the service through the photography professionals. Yeah. So when we're working with photographers that are already have chosen to, bring this in as an offering, typically they're the first point of contact. What we do is help provide collateral and demo content, and are happy to join the call and have a conversation with the customer. But this is really meant to be a service that is sold directly by the photographer. And we work with you on the back end to make sure that that's monetized in a way that you get compensated for your time and your work and for helping us market the product. We have sort of an a la carte pricing menu.
Yeah, there you go.
Varies just depending on the number of cameras that you have on site and sort of how much post-production work is done. Not unlike you would typically see sort of a sliding cost with, for having video work done or other content. We do have the ability to rent and drop ship the devices for photographers that want to experiment with this without making the investment. But I'll tell you, the cameras we use are incredibly affordable. They're about $600 a piece. And oftentimes we're working with photographers that already own these devices or who are interested in acquiring them for their own purposes. They're really exceptional tools just for doing business. But we have a few different options in terms of making sure that you're equipped. We're able to train the people that are going to be on location to do this over a Zoom call in about 30 minutes. There's very little to it. It's really more about having a conversation about where we want to place the cameras and making sure the timing is right and the batteries are charged. But beyond that, it's pretty much set and forget. And, essentially what we do is ask that you have the camera in the right spot during these key events, send us the raw collateral, or for those that care to invest the time and energy, if you want to take that content and run it through post and, do things to it to make it prettier, to clean it up, to stylize it, to add audio and other content, that's certainly an option on the table. It doesn't cost us anything to use that material. So if you're willing to produce it, we're excited to incorporate it into the memory experience. And you send us that material, finished or unfinished, and then we take it the last mile. And so we'll take all of that raw video and sort of raw material that you provide us, whether it's 2D imagery or traditional 2D video, and we blend all of that into this experience in a way that is bespoke to that client's event. We incorporate their music. We try and incorporate some visuals that are stylistically appropriate, like a nice trellis with some flowers. The other thing we do is we like to bring in a digital twin or a couple of digital twins into the experience. And a digital twin, it's really cool. So that's essentially a copy of a real world object. So it's a cake, the gift table. It could be the room in some cases. And what we're able to do is take a bunch of photos and stitch those together into a 3D model that is lifelike and right there and that you can interact with. So for example, I can take the cake and put it on the kitchen table or the counter. I can make it real big. I can get up close to it. The idea is that this is just a really nice way to remember those bits. It's way better than your old frozen cake out of the freezer. And it's just meant to sort of enhance the experience with other memorable items that complement that entire memory recall. So, we work with the couples on a case basis to make sure that we're including elements that are really important to them and their style and the sort of theme of the wedding. And it becomes a very unique, personalized experience that's got some really rich interactivity to it. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I'm curious, what are some other options that you've done in the past for digital twins for weddings?
Well, digital twins for weddings is kind of a new thing. What I'll tell you is that it's only recently that the devices for capturing this content have become accessible and affordable enough to be able to do this. 3 years ago, we would have had to use a $100,000 piece of commercial equipment, and now we're able to use an iPhone. So thanks to sort of the evolution of consumer technology, what's happened is that the cost of this stuff has really collapsed in a way that the hardware and the effort to capture the material is very easy, inexpensive, straightforward. Now that the real challenge is how do I get that into a recall experience that's really impactful, that, is emotional, and that gets me excited about being back in that moment again. And what we're excited for is that we sort of cross that divide. Devices from companies like Apple and Meta have hit the market. They're subsidizing this hardware by throwing a ton of money into it to make it available to us as consumers. And so we're able to take advantage of that in a way that makes this within reach. And like I said, if you look at the budgets for a typical event and the kind of money that's spent on disposables, right? Decorations, food, booze, this becomes a pretty small spend, relatively speaking, with a value that comes with it that's really, it's immeasurable. It's right. The opportunity to literally be back in that moment again 20 years down the road. I mean, I think about my life and watching my kids grow up and my parents. If I had an opportunity to be in my parents' wedding, or that's just mine. Like, it's hard to even get your head around. Yeah. And I think that's probably one of the big challenges for us, is that we're offering an opportunity to do something that's never been available before. This has not been a thing. So it's new and novel in that sense. But the outcomes are just so tremendous and compelling and emotional and impactful. It's a really exciting thing to see, especially when people get to sort of relive that moment for the first time. So and crazy. It's an event that's meaningful to them. Yeah.
So crazy. I had a question about, so when it comes to videographers, do you feel that this is competing, maybe not against the traditional, highlight film that they create, like the 4-minute, 6-minute film, but do you think that this competes with live streaming?
I don't, because first of all, produced content where you take the time to, color and stylize it and add the theming and the cutting and the motion. Yeah. I mean, it's a different kind of experience. What we're doing is just really real. You're in the moment. The camera is running at whatever the real-time clock is, and you're seeing what's happening around you. I think the kind of work that is done by professionals to stylize and produce those narratives and those videos that's where that value is. And that's never going to go away. I do think that this is a tremendous compliment to that, because what happens is this becomes an extension of that wonderful, stylized story in a way that lets you go to the next level, which is actually be back in that moment again. Yeah. So I don't think it's personally, even as just a consumer, I still think photos and video are sort of the natural starting point for capturing memories, because they're convenient, they're easy to share, they can be stylized and put together to tell a wonderful story. Yeah. This is that next step. This is putting you back inside of that moment. And frankly, a lot of our experience is based on gluing those two things together. So if you watch our demo video or have a chance to actually try the experience firsthand, what you see is that you start with panels of traditional media, pictures and video. As I sort of mouse over things, the video starts playing. I can take those screens and throw them 100 feet wide in my living room and watch them at ultra high resolution. And that's the video that you're already producing. It's the stylized, pretty beautiful finished product. But what we do is we have an icon that you can click on. It says 360 on it. And when you shoot that, you actually end up flying into the video and being in that moment. Matrix. So it's just it's that next step into the matrix, if you will. It takes you down that rabbit hole and into that moment. We put navigation in the surround experience so that you can hop between spots and hop between moments. Mm-hmm. So, I can go between those key events. So it's a little bit more interactive. I think, a lot of finished video is really meant to sort of be a playthrough that you watch from beginning to end. Yeah. And this is much more interactive, where I'm sort of changing channels and hopping between the parents' table and the toast and the ceremony and the cake cutting. But I do think it's a compliment. I mean, I don't ever expect this to replace traditional media. And in fact, we use those more traditional medias as sort of the pathway into that immersive experience. It's does a better job telling a story. It's less jarring, and it's fun. Frankly, it's fun to play with. So, that's so cool. I think it's an important element. And for that same reason, for projects where the client has an interest and there's budget and time, there is a tremendous opportunity as the professional to do that stylized finish work on the media that we incorporate into our mixed reality memory experience. So the more work that you put into your finished goods, that all gets represented inside of our app experience in a way that's very rich and engaging. It's a great way to elevate your brand and do a better job of telling a story about the kind of work that you're already producing. So I'd say that we shine a light, we highlight that more traditional media production work rather than compete with it.
This is so crazy. So I'm so happy we got you on here, because I'm learning that your product, I'm happy to hear that it doesn't replace videographers or photographers, you're actually benefiting them and benefiting the couple. And you created something that isn't competing with one another, which is awesome.
And is readily available. Like you're taking something so like that's so like out of this world to us and making it easy for the bride to either get it through you or their own photographer, videographer. That's incredible.
We are, you asked about other uses for this. I'll tell you that we have an interest to use this for venue tours to make it easier for couples shopping for locations to be able to view multiple sites without physically having to travel. We're working with venue operators, especially multi-site operators, because this way you can sit down with the client in one location and go through 5 or 10 locations without having to drag to each one to get this isn't the rate for me. Yeah. It's not going to necessarily prevent that last final on-site visit, but what it can do is cut down on a lot of the time spent getting a no. And so we're eager to work with both wedding coordinators to offer this as a service, just the same way that we do with photographers, and also event venue operators who want to use this as a better way to engage clients and work with them on venue sales. So it's an ecosystem. The experience is very similar regardless of that subject matter. What we're really doing is replacing the content. Content is king. So, at the end of the day, it's what you as the photography professionals capture that is going to make the experience compelling and meaningful. We're able to deliver it in a way that is next level and something that very few people have had a chance to experience yet, but it's still at the end of the day boils down to the quality of the work we get.
That is so crazy.
So when it comes to like wedding planners offering the multiple venue tours to the couple that's not local, like how would that work? Would that be something the planner would have to do, like the camera installation, or would you?
No, so we would typically work with the venue operator to do the capture and to produce the tour experience. So similar to the way that we capture a wedding and produce a wedding memory experience, we work with the venue operators to photograph them, and we typically do a mashup of traditional 2D photography and video, that very high quality surround video that I had described to you. And oftentimes we'll do digital twins of spaces so that people can physically see how big they are and how long it takes to walk across the room. We can even do things like simulate different setups so that you can swap out stages and different table arrangements and different sort of decorating styles. So what we typically do is work with you to understand, how do you want to tell the story about the venue? What are the features and options that you want to highlight? And then we incorporate that into an experience that makes it easy to sort of hop between locations. Typically what we do is we will build the tour in a way that it will either just play through and the person can sit and go on a journey, or it can be interactive where they can actually sort of hop around locations and change perspectives and switch between sites. Now, here's the big deal. Our platform supports co-presence. And so what that means is that we can actually have multiple folks together simultaneously in that experience, having it together.
I was curious about that. Oh my gosh.
And that can be both physically in the same location and remote. So I can either have, my clients in the conference room with me and we're hopping from location to location, or they can be on their couch in another state and we can be doing it together. What's great about that is that the host or the MC of the experience can actually drive the ship, so to speak, so they can take the audience with them to different locations. We're talking to each other. We have spatial audio and avatars, so we know where we are relative to the space. I even have the ability to point out with a laser, point out areas of interest. So I can say, look, this is where the lighting rigging is. The bathrooms are over here. Here's the kitchen facilities. Yeah. So the idea is to be able to provide that tour experience without having to travel and spend gas. And, the capture is typically takes about as much time as it takes to do a standard walkthrough. So, there's some shots where we want to get out of the view and let the camera run for a couple of minutes. But basically, we can capture a venue in a couple of hours. And then we're able to stitch that broad collateral into a segment that gets tied together with the navigation that lets you sort of surf between the different locations and go on that rich experience. The platform is designed to be white labeled. So when we're working with larger venue operators, we do have the ability to make this their tour experience with their brand that's exclusive to their locations. We're also eager for the opportunity to work with consortiums and, groups of larger operators where there may be a lot of individual locations that are interested in putting together a tour experience that is sort of universal across all of those sites. I think that's a little ambitious because people are still trying to get their heads around this stuff, but that's where we see this going. We're excited for the potential for couples to be able to look through 50 locations in mixed reality and then focus on the one that they really are excited for and work with the venue to make it happen.
I'm curious, how elaborate you can make these different scenarios. Like, for example, one area in a venue, you could show it as a ceremony versus reception. Would we be able to say hey, can you put these chairs in this space with this altar? And yeah,
so that's a great question. The answer is there's several ways to do it. So the sort of simple way is to capture the space under those different conditions. So we might, over the course of 6 weeks, go to 3 different events and to have the convenience of being able to capture the space when it's set up in the mode that you're interested in explaining it to your clients. So that's just a matter of us sort of taking the opportunity to capture that video when the time comes, and then we use that and incorporate it in. However, there are some other opportunities. One is that surround video becomes a staging. It sort of sets the tone for the experience or that moment that I'm immersed there. And we can project artificial assets in a way that looks like they're placed in that space. So I can literally have a menu that lets me choose between, a 10 top, a 20 top, a stage in the middle, a dance floor in the middle, a stage at the end of the room. And we're basically placing 3D assets that look like real world objects and in a way that looks like they're occupying that space, and using that surround video for context. So that's a little bit more of a simulation, but the visual result is crystal clear as day what you're getting. And it's wonderful for planning. One of the nice things about that is we can actually physically move those assets around. So I can I can shove the tables around the room. I can, take the stage and pick it up and put it over here. I can swap out the lighting rig, and we can do that in real time. And the really holy grail experience is that we make a digital twin of the space. So this raises the bar a little bit in terms of the production work, but the outcomes are really tremendous. We're able to literally make copies of real world spaces, including venue halls, the large rooms that you're hosting the ceremony or the reception in a way that I can put you back into that space. And you're not in a photo that is fixed in camera location. You're in a 3D model that you can physically walk from one end of the room to the other, and where we can take these other assets like tables and chairs and stages and place them. And I can physically walk around that stuff. I can walk through the tables. I can walk across the room. I can see how far away I am from the main event when I'm in the back corner. That is a ridiculously real experience. We're actually using that a lot today in other industries that are using this for things like planning and facilities maintenance and operations. And so this is where it's headed. The quality of the digital twins is continuing to get better, but it is a little uncanny. What I mean by that is that, it still sometimes has small artifacts or lumpiness or, elements of it that don't look like a perfect real world copy. And that's getting better. The devices are getting better. The ability to process that information is getting better. Some people love it. Some people look at it and feel like it's too far disconnected from the real world. So for venue planning and event planning from a facilities and an operations perspective, it's a wonderful tool. And if the venues that we're working with are using it that way for actually planning and layout, it's the way to go. But I think for consumer engagement, what's nice is that the surround video is good enough. It's rich enough, it's impactful enough, and it's a lot easier to produce. And to build a breadth of content that, covers all of your venues in a way that's sustainable. One of the really nice things about our platform is that it is actually a content management system on the back end, a lot like the way that you would maintain a website. Yeah. And so the whole point of it is that you can update and refresh that material as the venue changes, the branding changes, the marketing messaging change. We can create these experiences and make it easy to refresh them and update them without having to rebuild the app from scratch. One of the sort of barriers. Jade, you had asked, you'd mentioned we've been doing this for a few years. We have. And one of the reasons that we went on this journey is because up until now, in order to create any sort of meaningful experience on this new class of hardware, you had to be a gaming or a movie studio, which basically made it prohibitive for most,
right.
Certainly for individual consumers and impractical for small and mid-sized businesses and venue operators. Well, that's all changed. We've taken the hard work out of that. We've made it easy to put collateral into the experiences that are really relevant to your audience, to put them in your locations with your layouts and setup. And the devices now are affordable and accessible, and they're starting to show up under the Christmas tree and in the office suite. And so we're starting to see all of these sort of boundaries collapse. And now the sort of remaining barrier is having good, meaningful content experiences built into this. And that's why we're so excited to be working with folks like you, is to start to build out that collection of content. Imagine if somebody had come up to you 15 years ago and said, hey, there's this really cool website called YouTube, and you can post videos about stuff that you care about and people will like it and it becomes very popular. Nobody would have been a million years to have imagined what YouTube has become. It's become the way that I share. I teach, I learn, I explain, I share pictures of my cat, I share memories of my wedding. This is the same thing. This is just a new vehicle. The creative license is much richer. The way that we're able to mix the material and tell a story and be there with others is nuts. It's just truly next level. But at the end of the day, it's all about the experiences that we're telling a story about and being able to put people back in that moment.
This is so next level that I'm still trying to wrap my mind around this
the whole time. And it's so much cooler than I expected. I didn't really know what to expect at first when Derek told me, hey, we're interviewing an XR virtual reality thing. Oh.
I value your enthusiasm and I'm excited for it. What I'll tell you is that it's very difficult to illustrate. It's not hard to illustrate, but it's hard for one to really appreciate how impactful this is by watching a video of it. Yeah. I'll share a link with you that I would appreciate if you share with your audience that does actually capture a demo version of this from the in-device perspective, so that you get a sense for sort of how we're stitching together the content, how we're incorporating the digital twins, how you can interact with those giant screens and how you can fly into the space. But what I'll tell you is the video still doesn't do a good job of really giving you a sense of just how your brain tingles and registers when you do this firsthand. So I will just tell you that the video is a wonderful illustration of what this looks like, but it still doesn't do justice to the actual firsthand experience. What I will offer you is that in the video, we show you a couple clips of people reacting to it. And that is the result we get every time we put somebody in this thing, is they, come out of it with this giant grin on their face going, oh my God, I can't believe it. That's almost verbatim what we get every time. So we know that people love the being in the moment. We know that this is a really impactful way to recall those memories. And this is a brand new offering, and we're eager for the opportunity to capture these events and, show how powerful this is by creating a portfolio of experiences.
Random question. So earlier you mentioned that multiple people could be in the same space, enjoying the same experience at the same time. Can you go back to the dance floor and dance with the guests with another partner on the glasses?
You can. So in fact, the answer is yes. I will tell you that the multi-user capability we have, it is available for any of these moments that we create, but we typically are implementing it for event tour use cases where you're taking an audience on a location and want to sort of, have a dialogue with them in real time and explain what's going on. For the memory recall experience, it is not co-present simply because we want people to be able to dive in and have a good time with it. But the short answer is that we do have that ability. And if you felt like that was a really compelling feature for us to include, we would consider doing it. We do have a really cool dance party Easter egg built into the demo that lets you dance experience with others. And I should mention, Jade, that if you're in the same space together and in the app and sort of playing the app at the same time, you are effectively having that sort of co-present experience. But the flavor that I'm describing when you're doing venue tours is a little bit more sophisticated, because everybody in the space is represented by an avatar. When we talk, we hear each other relative to each other's position. We all have laser pointers so that we can point out areas of interest that others will see, so that we can have a conversation about that. And if I'm the MC or the host, I'm actually able to take my audience on a journey. So I can drive the tour. I can take you to location. I can change the camera perspectives, and everybody has that change experience simultaneously. So that we do enable that. And for the wedding experience, it's an option. But I think in most use cases, the way that we're doing the wedding recall is it's just not something that people will use regularly. Typically, that's something where they're just going to surf it on their own.
This is great. I just loved hearing that this benefits, not only photo and video, but now also the wedding planners, where they can actually elevate
and the venues
experience. Mm-hmm. So Jade,
it's a fantastic way to provide tours. Yeah.
Jade could probably provide that to maybe her top tier clients. I would recommend full planning.
I mean,
maybe.
Those are the ones that we are taking on tours, and sometimes it's hard to do that physically. So that's.
Especially if you're dealing with couples that are out of the area. It's a great way to sort of narrow down the visit. We know that in our region, a lot of folks come from out of the area to go on those tours. And, that's time and money off everybody's calendar. And if you spend 3 gallons of gas and an hour going to a location to get a no, you just spent, $150 of your time. We're trying to offset that in a way that lets you go through 5, 10, 15 locations in an hour or two. And if they narrow it down to the couple that you want to go visit, that's fine. You can still, do that. But this, from a selection perspective, is really tremendous. We can drop ship these devices to folks that are not in the area, so that you can give them that tour experience remotely. And it is really, I will mention that we're using this in other venue and facility use cases, typically for larger scale, like commercial events, where this is also a great planning tool, because you can put a forward team on location to figure out what's going to fit and where the rigging is and whether or not the electrical infrastructure is sufficient, and if the kitchen's going to be big enough without having to travel there. So, the challenge for us is we have to have that catalog of venues. And I'll be frank, we're spending a lot of time evangelizing this right now, because people have not seen it and don't understand it, and sometimes have sort of preconceptions about what it is or what it's going to be. And that can be a turnoff. So we're having to spend a lot of time giving people that first opportunity to try this in a device in a way that puts you in the moment. And then typically we stop talking about if or why they should be doing it, and instead the conversation is about how. So, our goal as a business, I'll tell you, for those that are in the professional space, whether you're a photographer or videographer or a venue operator, if we're not doing this in a way that makes sense for you on paper, where you're able to monetize it and grow your business, we're doing the wrong thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that what's interesting about this technology is it can be used for lots of different purposes: planning, recalling the memory, selling the product. And, part of our job is to work with you to identify those opportunities that make sense, that are easy to produce, and where we know that there's growth and demand, and to work together to develop that market. Our go-to-market strategy in this industry is to partner with professionals like yourselves, and for you to be the outlet and the long sort of tentacles of customer service and support that help us deliver this. And our goal is to stay focused on the technology and continuing to work with the latest devices that come to market, and taking advantage of their new capabilities as they come on board in terms of interactivity and hand motion, and being able to play with this stuff. It's a great synergy. At the end of the day, content is king, and the work that you produce is what matters most. But this as a delivery and a first-person recall experience is unreal. It's unlike anything that most people have seen before, and it is wonderful. It really is a tremendous experience to have.
Yeah, this is great. I like knowing that, I'm going to mention it again to all the vendors that are listening, that this benefits all of us.
Yeah.
I thought when I first saw when I saw your company, I thought you guys were just like a separate thing that just comes into the wedding space, more people, but you're actually benefiting everyone, which is great.
Yeah, I mean, it's not only is it important to us from a network and being able to provide good service to customers perspective, but we're not artists, we're technologists. And it's at the end of the day, it's the art that really compels. And we value, most of us actually come out of the print and digital arts and photography space. Yeah. We have, a huge amount of appreciation and value for those disciplines. And that's the meat of what we're doing, is taking that collateral and providing a more compelling way to remember it.
That's amazing.
It's definitely a compliment to those services. And it's our goal is to turn it into I don't want to get too much in the business side of this, but we're here to help you make money. Yep. So we have, pricing and programs that are designed to compensate you for simply introducing the concept and helping us close the business, and then more incremental income that can come on top if you help us with the production that scales with your level of effort and in a way that everybody walks away happy and the clients are thrilled and everybody gets paid for their time and effort.
Amazing.
How neat. I'm curious, from the reliving the day aspect and a bride and groom, receiving your product. Mm-hmm. Is there any feedback that you've received that you can share with us that you used it for their wedding day?
Well, I will encourage you to look at some of the reactions that we've got that we've shared in our video that sort of captured it's almost more the smile on the face than it is the wow response that we get. We do ship these devices in a nice decorated box that's personalized for them, and that feels like a post-wedding gift that they're receiving. I mean, we've received nothing but positive feedback. Yeah. Folks love the fact that they can be back in the moment. It's a really neat thing to get a few weeks after the event and be able to hop back in, but it's also a great thing to be able to take to grandma's house and put the parents back in the moment. It's a wonderful thank you gift. We've received feedback that folks love using this as a keepsake or thank you, because it's way better than spending a fortune on a plate of food or giving them something, that's material, but doesn't necessarily have a lot of long-term value. Yeah. And part of the beauty of the fact that we're delivering these on device is you get a really cool toy. And it's not a toy, by the way. This thing is used in business. It's great for productivity. It's wonderful for entertainment. And so it really is sort of a neat parting gift that has, sort of immeasurable value as it comes to the recall experience. But then on top of that, you get this really neat device that does amazing things. That's fun and interactive and really engaging. So the reception has been tremendous. I mean, I will tell you that we're very early to market. This is a new thing for us. We've only got a few of these under our belts, but everything that we've received back from our clients that we've worked with has just been nothing but kudos. So we're really excited to start expanding that. In terms of the richness of the experience, it varies depending on what the appetite of the clients are. And, obviously budget comes into play there, but we're able to do some really impactful things at a reasonable cost in a way that, gives real meaning to this for consumers that decide to invest in it. So.
And it's nice that you have the flexibility in customizing it. This is the most customizable option that I've seen.
Our long-term goal is for these experiences to be able to expand to other life's important moments. Mm-hmm. So this doesn't have to be relegated exclusively to the wedding. It's great for graduations and, mitzvahs, births. I mean, for those that want to be in that moment, all of that's on the table. And, really what we're about is making it easy to have those memories in mixed reality in a way that is way more impactful than looking on a flat screen. It's more engaging and entertaining, and visually it's next level. I mean, unless you own a 300-inch television, you're not going to be able to view the stuff the way that we're able to display it, and it's really cool.
So, crazy, so crazy. So, Chris, I know that with all of us being in businesses, we also have our challenges. So I want to get into a little bit on that end. So are there any challenges or limitations couples should consider when opting for a VR wedding experience? And does the 360 camera get in the way of what's going on?
Great question. So I'll answer in two parts. For us, the challenge is awareness. this is just such a new and nascent thing that most people don't know it's even an opportunity or what it looks like and what the outcome is. So we're eager to, evangelize this, help people understand that so that they can make an informed decision about whether or not it makes sense. And frankly, the most impactful way to sort of demo this is to put a device on head. So one of our practical challenges is not everybody owns an Oculus right now, but they're becoming more prolific, and we certainly have the ability to deliver them and put them in the hands of customers that are interested in seeing this and in order to make a decision. So happy to work with you on that. From clients' perspective, or even a wedding professionals' perspective, what I'll tell you is these cameras are very innocuous. They stand on a selfie stick, and they aren't real obvious. There's not a large of screens or blinky lights going on. We do suggest putting them in spots that are kind of like right there. So if you want to capture for example, the ceremony, having this sort of over the shoulder of the person doing the ceremony or off to the side of the couple is a really wonderful way to capture that. You want it to be at an angle where it sees the stuff that you're going to want to be able to see. And that may mean that you have a camera in view, of the couple if other people are taking pictures. That stuff is pretty easy to edit out these days, by the way. But the point is that it is another sort of object in space, but they're very tiny. They're not obvious. They don't grab any attention. We will, in order to capture all of these sort of special moments, part of the goal is to have the person that's running the camera place it in key locations, at the parents' table, near the couple for the toast, near the cake for the cutting, so that, there will be somebody wandering around and like setting this down and walking away. And it's likely that maybe some of the guests will be curious about what this is because it's new and novel. And the answer is we're taking pictures. Fine, let's move on. But other than that, no, we want to be mindful of, like, it's great to have the camera in the middle of the dance floor when everybody's boogieing, but you got to be careful about somebody knocking it over. Exactly. So, there's just little logistics things like that we need to be mindful of. Lighting typically is not an issue. We can capture extremely high quality in pretty much any lighting condition. Yeah. The audio is very good. And, one thing I'll share is that these cameras they're 8K cameras, very high resolution. Jeez. We actually upscale them using AI to improve the video. Wow. But what's nice about them is, I will tell you as a photographer or videographer, is that they're recording continuously in 360, but we can go back in post and frame out a traditional shot, including panning shots or shots that are following subject matter. So this is a wonderful way to capture additional B-roll. And we do share back all the raw material. So if you want to, as the videographer, you want to incorporate this into your work, we encourage you to. But the point is, this becomes another high quality camera perspective view that you can use to stitch into the content that you're putting together. And the way that you edit it and post, it can look like a traditional, 16:9 video or HD video that is a supplement or complement to the other shots that you have using other traditional cameras. So it's logistically, it's just about making sure the battery is charged and the thing is on and it's sitting in the right place at the right moment. They're very unobvious. The other thing I will mention is that cameras will shoot from any angle. So I can have this flipped off of a trellis hanging over the spot or off to the side. It doesn't need to be stable. It just needs to be in view. Okay. So it really just is a matter of having a line of sight, and the further away you are, the further things look away. So it's nice to have the camera in close proximity to those special moments and the right people at the right time. But beyond that, it's pretty much set and forget. And again, it's something that we're able to train in a Zoom call. It's very straightforward.
So I was picturing, like, when you say 3D or 360 camera, that it would like rotate and have to have you like all around.
You rotate. Yeah. Well, no. So this is actually, if you look closely, there's actually two cameras here. Yeah. And these are lenses that capture about 183 degree view. So they capture, and then in our in the software that we use as part of the production, that gets stitched into a fixed piece of surround video. Now we do have the ability to sort of control where you're panned in that if we want to direct your attention. But typically in these kinds of examples, you're in the bubble, and if you want to look around, you look around. So I look this way, I'm looking behind me, I look over here, I'm looking to my right, and it's all relative to where it's placed. Again, cool. I mean, I can't impress upon you how crazy it is. I've been in this for 5 years. It still gets me excited because it's just such a cool experience. But you have to see it firsthand to really appreciate just how tremendous it is.
I had a question. Yeah, I had a question about, so when it comes to wedding professionals, we're always curious about what we're responsible for and what, giving the best to the client. So when a photographer or videographer says they use your equipment and they set it down, is it secured? Because what happens if they walk away and it falls and they forget to check on it? Like, does that thing secure on the table, like a clamp or anything, the camera?
Oh, you can clamp it, you can sandbag it. I mean, it's like any other camera on a tripod.
Yeah.
You just, the way that we want these placed typically is a little bit more in proximity of the subject matter.
Yeah.
Because that's where your head is in space. So, you want to be mindful of where it's placed. It certainly can go on the table.
Yeah.
It can go in an empty chair space. We haven't had any issues with it. We do, obviously there's some insurance options that typically don't get exercised. We do provide safety covers for the caps so that the camera's not destroyed if it falls over. It's a $20 part instead of a $600 part. And we've learned through, practice and hard knocks, what to do, what not to do. But the simple answer is that if it's on a tripod, you just want to make sure the tripod is secured the way you would any other asset. Cool. And then we can use a traditional tripod, but we typically prefer to use a selfie stick tripod. And the reason for this is that we don't have the extra arm coming out. There's not a big hot pad here. This actually gets removed. You don't see this in the video because it gets stitched out. It's part of the production. So if you have some sandbags or other stuff around, a little bit of that may appear, but it's typically going to be at your feet. Actually, I should mention that, some people complain that being in these immersive experiences can be uncomfortable because it's sort of uncanny and you get motion sickness. It's not a typical response, but some people have it. So one of the things that we do to make them more comfortable is when you're in these surrounding experiences, if you look down, you actually see your feet cut a hole out of the bottom of the experience with a little safety boundary so that you can still see where you are and in the real world and sort of get that sense of being grounded and not have that uncomfortableness that sometimes comes. So
that's great. So so I was curious. So it could be on a tripod, and that little selfie stick is like a tripod too. I thought it was just like a little stick thing. I was like, where do you put that?
No, this is actually got feet to it.
Cool. I see.
But we can, a standard tripod works. A gaffer's clip works.
Yeah.
Bendy, those bendy arms.
Everything.
It just takes a standard, quarter-inch screw base, and you can, if the camera's fixed, you're set. In fact, I should mention that the cameras can be in motion. One of the really cool things to do is sort of bring the camera around the space. We can use a very long stick and almost capture drone style shots over the space and to capture the audience from the sky. That's all fair game. And we do, talk to the photographers about that opportunity and encourage them to capture it as B-roll. Depending on the couple and the experience, sometimes that can be uncanny if you're flying around like you're in the sky. And so we're careful about how we incorporate those shots. But the beauty of it is that the camera can be in motion and give you the perspective of walking through. I will offer for venue tours, that's huge because if you have a large facility, you can literally walk around with the camera on a stick, narrate as you're walking. Let's say that you're the operator of the venue, walking through, explaining the size, the scale of the facilities, the direction of things. What's powerful about that is not only do you get a first person tour with somebody explaining to you what's going on, but you can stop anywhere along that video and look in 360. So whether I'm in the dining room or the lobby or the suite or the bathroom or the kitchen, that tour is just one flowing experience. And I can either play through it like a video and go for a walk, or I can stop and look in all directions at any time during that tour and get that perspective view. So that's, when you think about like event reviews for planning, especially at larger scale events, what happens is the forward team goes out and they take a bunch of pictures and video. And if the camera's not pointing in the right spot, you don't have a document of that spot. The beauty of this is you can go through and you're capturing all directions at all times, and it's up to the audience to decide where they focus their attention. Obviously, we can produce that in a way that you direct their attention and, point out the things that are important to them. But as a planning and a sort of a recall tool, it's tremendous because I can get perspective views of spots along that tour that I may not have thought about when I was taking the pictures.
So crazy.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
It gets better and better.
It's insane. Yeah, that is insane. I love everything. And it's remarkable to see how this technology is truly enhancing wedding captures for the couples and benefiting the vendors. This is amazing.
Yeah.
So, Chris,
we're very excited for it.
Yeah. So what do you see as the future for the XR, your technology in the industry?
Great question. One thing you're going to see is the devices are going to become more like glasses and an extension of your cell phone. So they'll get lighter, they'll get less intrusive in terms of wearing them on your face. Yeah. My prediction is that most all devices that get the market moving forward will be AR, VR capable, which means that they can both do mixed reality and immersive experiences. And it will be up to the creator to decide how we mix those. And in fact, we do that with the wedding experience. We start with the mixed experience and the space you're in, and then we go down the rabbit hole into the event, pop back out the other side. So I think you'll start to see, the devices will become more comfortable, more capable, less expensive, more commonplace. Then one of the nice things about the way that we produce these experiences and capture the content is it will have a lifespan that will continue to work with new technology, new hardware as it becomes available. Right. And even potentially the opportunity to repurpose some of that raw material in ways that we can't even imagine today. I also think that you'll start to see more use of digital twins, which are those actual 3D copies of real world spaces, as the quality and the ability to capture them becomes easier and of a higher quality in terms of what it produces. The holy grail is 4D video, which is the notion that you can be in a 3D scene with everybody moving around, and whether, regardless of where you're moving, you're in that moment with those people, sort of holodeck style, like from Star Wars, Star Trek.
Wow, yeah.
That's next level, because the mechanics of capturing something like that requires that I have many, many devices and many different angles and a lot of sort of post-processing going on. But, frankly, with the evolution of these technologies and things like AI, my prediction is that we'll be there someday. At the end of the day, though, it will mean maybe more cool and blinky interactions and more polished sort of browsing experience. But what you're really, what matters in any of those experiences is being back in that moment, seeing mom and dad, seeing the toast, watching my niece and nephew dance on the floor. That's what matters. Yeah. So we'll continue to improve and enhance the engagement. And that's part of the sort of sex and bling of this stuff, is that it's fun and it's beautiful and it's way, way different than flipping through a photo album. But at the end of the day, it really boils down to capturing the special moments and the narrative that comes with them. And that's something that, ultimately our customers are producing. It's their moment. We're just here to make sure that we capture and memorialize it in a way that's more impactful.
Yeah.
So thinking about like generations, like passing it down, like you said, we could do, like if the glasses are way like more futurized and less bulky, will they be able to like in the future move it to that?
So the short answer is it's up to us. So as a provider, part of our intent and goal is to continue to develop and maintain the platform in a way that it just works on new hardware as it comes to market. But this is an evolution. And so, we're all sort of placing bets on how that shakes out. The beauty of what we produce is that all of that raw collateral, the 360 video, the digital twins, are also provided back as raw material that you can use on whatever the next viewing platform is. As it relates to AR, VR devices, we will continue to maintain and keep those experiences fresh so that they work for the foreseeable future. But my prediction is that in 15 or 20 years, we won't actually be using a device on our faces. We'll probably be using other means of display that are more sort of organically integrated with our environment. And so we'll be looking at ways to be able to repurpose and deliver these experiences on those platforms as they evolve. They just don't exist yet. So the same as with any sort of recording, the raw material is always there and available to use and reuse and get into the deep detail on, and that's something that will have longevity for the foreseeable, for as long as pictures and video, I guess, are a medium. And we're all excited to see sort of what happens with the evolution of these display technologies and what kind of opportunity it presents for us in terms of the engagement, the user experience that we deliver on top. But it's going to be cool.
So as we've learned, as the future and time goes on, things have become more advanced and easier to use. So my question for you, Chris, is do you fear that your industry, your market will become a competitive market as technology advances?
Selfishly, I hope it becomes competitive because it means that it's in demand and there's people that are out there that want this stuff. Yep. So I'm not too concerned about that. I think that, what we're excited for is that the capture technology is becoming more accessible and self-service. And, I should mention that we're happy to work directly with a couple that can't afford or doesn't have a photographer and to spin them up on how to do this themselves. It's kind of a bummer if you have to be taking your own photos on your wedding, but it happens. And so we are excited for the sort of the enablement barriers for whoever's going to be running the capture and doing some of that creative post work, for that to get easier and more accessible, because that provides us more content to work with. I'm not too concerned about other providers offering this as an experience option. We're early to market and definitely a market leader. And like I said, I think if we start to see other companies offering this, it's because it's in demand and there's plenty of room. It's greenfield. I mean, the biggest challenge for us right now is that nobody really understands how tremendous this is. And I think one of the problems that we're likely to have in the near future is this becomes popular. There's going to be demand that we're going to have a challenge fulfilling, but we'll be happy to do that.
It's a good problem to have.
Right.
I love the way you look at it, is that if our product is competitive, that means we're in demand. I love that.
We're doing the right thing.
You're doing the right thing.
I've owned a restaurant. I've been in other small businesses, and I'm a big fan of more restaurants on the block. I know it's sort of a euphemism that people use, but it's true. I think you get better quality product. It raises the bar in terms of competition, and it means that there's an interest and demand for it. So we're really excited for that.
That's so cool, Chris. So now we like to get into another part of our podcast called This or That. There's some rapid fire questions just to get to know you a little bit more outside of your XR world.
Oh man. All right. I feel like I'm going to be giving away some tips and secrets here. So, okay.
All right, Jade, take it away.
Espresso or drip coffee?
Oh, espresso. Uh-huh. But actually I drink red eyes, so I like both.
The Matrix or Terminator?
Oh gosh, that's a tough one. Terminator, because I think it's a little bit closer to reality right now.
Beer or wine?
Beer, but I'm a big fan of wine as well.
Nice. Vacation or staycation?
Vacation. We live in paradise. Sometimes you got to get the hell out of here for a little while.
Loud neighbors or nosy neighbors?
Oh, loud neighbors.
Loud neighbors.
Yeah. I like to party. I don't mind if other people are celebrating. It's okay.
Yeah.
One drink every day or many drinks once a week?
Oh, man. Probably the latter, just out of necessity. I don't do real well when I drink every day.
Win the lottery or land your dream job?
B, land my dream job. I'd much rather earn it. That doesn't mean that I don't play lottery. When it gets over $500 million, I'll spend $20.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather earn it through merit.
Nice. Time machine or magic wand?
Oh, time machine.
Pause time
I think with a time machine, you can go get a magic wand, probably.
Probably.
So.
Yeah, there you go. Have both.
Or Merlin.
Pause time or rewind time?
If those are my only two choices, pause. I don't have a lot of regrets. I don't have a lot of regrets.
Nice. Road trip or plane ride?
Okay, that's a touchy subject because I'm a private pilot. So I love flying personally. I don't get to do it a whole lot, but it's something I'm really passionate about. But, you know, if I had a choice between commercial flight or road trip, I'd probably do the road trip.
Nice.
Attend a wedding or watch it virtually?
Both. You want to be there for the real thing and you want to remember how cool it was.
Yeah.
You know? Absolutely. Yeah.
Jurassic Park or Jaws?
Oh, man. All right. That's next impossible to answer.
That pretty much
Both of those movies I love. I guess because I grew up with the Jaws, but Jurassic Park is, you know, super near and dear to my heart.
Yeah.
1 and like 7. The one in the middle.
Yeah, we'll say the first Jurassic Park.
Brunch or dinner?
Brunch, because I'm a late riser and I eat dinner when most people are asleep. So
Yeah, same.
And the last one, cake or pie?
Oh, cake. Yeah, I love both, but cake is a special science. Yeah, when it's done well, it's out of this world. So yeah.
Dude, we love it. That was it. Simple, fun questions, man.
Awesome. You guys are great. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
But we have one last final question.
Yeah.
If you could choose any superpower to have while working in your business, what would it be and how would it help you?
Man, that's a pretty personal question.
Oh, wow.
I wish that I were better at social media and evangelizing this stuff. Because it's for me doing the. I love talking with folks like yourselves, and if you can't tell, I'm really passionate about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's hard to get out there and be rah out into the void and, you know, hope that people will respond. That's something that I struggle with personally a lot. I wish I was a little better at it.
Yeah.
I'm probably better at it than I give myself credit, but I'm jealous of people that do that so well and are so popular, not out of the popularity, but just out of their skill and being able to do that. It's a very special, it's a special thing. It's not something everybody's capable of doing. So I guess my superpower would be maybe trying to be better at engaging the world on that scale. It's sort of a weird one, but
yeah, you'd have like super charisma.
Yes.
Yeah.
Super charisma. I want super charisma. But I would settle for like an extra 10 years of my life. You know, like those are the choices. So.
That's so good. I love it. So Chris, before we let you go, where can everyone find you? Where can our listeners find you?
Thank you. Please visit our site at myxrwedding.com. You can also find us at Facebook at myxrwedding. And we have an Instagram page as well, myxrwedding_pics. And we'd love to hear from you. What I would encourage you to do is visit the site, watch the little teaser video that we have on the homepage there. You'll get a sense for both sort of what the experience is like and some of the reactions that you'll see from people that have tried it. And we'd love to hear from you and answer questions and are excited for the opportunity to work with you. So thank you.
Of course. Thank you. And Chris, thank you so much. We've had such a pleasure learning everything about your business. I know this sparked a huge interest in us. I can see Jade especially. This is crazy. So Chris, thank you again for taking the time and have a great day.
It means the world to me. I sincerely appreciate it. You guys have a fantastic afternoon. Let me know how I can support you and your discovery of My XR Wedding. I really appreciate it. Thank you. Have a great day.
This has been such an enlightening episode.
Right? Chris from My XR Wedding really opened our eyes to the incredible potential of using XR technology to enhance the wedding reliving experience. I mean, imagine being able to fully immerse yourself in those precious moments, reliving the magic of your big day whenever you want, and doing so with such vividness and depth that it feels like you're stepping back into the moment. Moreover, imagine sharing this sensation with a guest who couldn't physically attend your wedding, allowing them to partake in the joy and magic from afar.
Absolutely. And what's truly remarkable is how Chris collaborates with other wedding professionals to make an out-of-this-world experience easily accessible to couples. They're turning what might seem like a futuristic concept into something attainable and unforgettable for anyone looking to preserve their special memories in a whole new way. Thanks again, guys, for tuning in to the Wedding Vendors Happy Hour. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button to hear from more amazing wedding professionals. Whether you're tuning into our podcast or watching it on YouTube, we'll catch you on Season 2, Episode 8.
Thank you for listening to the Wedding Vendors Happy